Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Tom McKay. I'm your stable genius host here tonight to make sure we're all stable and geniuses. 3D politics, and you'll notice one guy is missing, so I'll introduce everybody. David Oldham, and David D'Ambroso, who is existing in quantum state right now, showing non-coherence properties. As you can tell, actually, he's in.
I think his wife would disagree with
he's
that.
in well, for us today, he is in non-coherent
He is our
properties.
He is our Obi-Wan tonight.
So I'll never act like he's not here. We do wish him and his wife a great and successful birth of another child into their family.
Blessed birth, yes.
A blessed birth to the D'Ambroso family. Amen. And it's a big boost to the tax base. It's another new average taxpayer. So you know that kid, 25 years, going to see a little bump. You know,
Nice. How many kids you got, Tom?
500. 500. I got 5 kids and a wife in that order.
Oh.
All right, today on 3D Politics, and I'm going to let you guys plug your own sites because I get confused. Today on 3D Politics, we had a few things to talk about. Pawhuska has a fireman that went after a grandma. It was a very exciting melee. Also, there's the continuing saga of the hemp truck there in Pawhuska. We're also going to talk a little bit about reparations. I've got a libertarian Q&A for the boys here. We're going to talk about ODOT mission creep, and also the exciting end of the show, crop of the crop of the drop, absolute bottom 5 of 100. All right, folks. Everybody else has a top 10. We got the crop of the drop. You know,
because we're from Oklahoma.
The cream of the crop, you know where that goes. Everything else drops, and this is the crop from the drop. It's the absolute bottom of 5. Bottom 5 of 100. We'll get to that to the end of the show.
We're
so
spellbound now.
Well, I got to give them something to live for.
That's right.
Why else would they stick around?
In case the show tanks, right?
All right, we're going to start off with the Pawhuska grandma and fireman fight. What happened?
Well, I had to tell you here, the folks in Pawhuska, I've always considered on one level they were more intelligent than the folks in Washington, D.C., that is. Because the folks in Pawhuska know where Washington, D.C. is. Right. But the folks in D.C. don't know where Pawhuska is. All right. Well, that was true until today. Let me tell you what, I tell you, some things have been happening there. First of all, we talked about, I think, a little last week about the police chief got fired on the very last day of the city manager's duties. The last thing he does is fire the chief of police, and then he takes off and leaves town, leaving the assistant city manager coming in to take over, at least for a time, and that guy used to be the police chief, and he was in on getting him fired. So, his name's Rex Weichel. Rex comes back to work on Monday, and by Tuesday, he resigned over the brouhaha from firing a very popular, very well-liked new police chief who's only been on the job 2 months.
So the city manager has now resigned, or
they are on their third city manager in the last 10 days.
Okay.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
And so the original firing of the first police chief, they liked that guy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Very well liked.
All right.
And so what happened then, the city council calls for an emergency meeting. They met on Wednesday. And on Wednesday, they go to the meeting not having a city manager nor an assistant city manager. And the woman who's been the administrative assistant for the last 7 years, first thing they do is they say, okay, you're our city manager for the interim. At least for
You're
this.
it.
You're it. You know? I mean,
look at you.
And, the first thing they tell her to do is, you fix our situation here with the police chief situation. And so after the meeting, she gets with their city attorney, and they meet with this fellow they just fired, Nick Silva. And the first thing they do is they give him his job back. So in the interim, the chief, so the city would not go without a head over their police department. So the sheriff was giving guidance to him.
Okay.
Wednesday night, the new police chief goes over to the police department, meets with this deputy sheriff. They do a ceremonial handshake saying, the department's yours. I'm respecting and acknowledging that you're the head
Both
law
cross
enforcement.
over to the demilitarized.
Yeah, there you go. So that's the setup for this. Meanwhile, what happened all last week, an attorney up there, Holcomb is his last name, attorney practicing, I believe, in private practice, starts a petition for recall. I guess it's in their city charter to recall the city council. And I guess there's 5 members on there. And
he wants to recall the whole batch.
Yeah. And a couple of dozen people I don't know, between 1 and 2 dozen from what I hear, got together for this meeting. Well, a friend of mine, or a social media contact that I've gotten to know over the months, especially with the hemp truck case way back in last winter, she decides to join this. So Friday, she's down around noon, lunchtime, down at the city park. It's a veterans park. It's real small, a little pocket park is what they call them here in Tulsa.
Right now, Broso would say, well, David, you know she's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, right. And she's got her little table up. She put a couple of signs saying, sign our recall petition. And she's got a friend of hers and a little daughter, granddaughter, a little gal with them. And what do you know? They aren't there but a few minutes, and a swarm of 3 city agencies show up. The first one on the scene is the dog catcher, don't you know?
It's almost an insult.
Yes. And 2 police squad cars show up,
Starsky,
and they're blocking
Dodge.
the driveway up, and then even the fire department guy shows up. Well, now the female officer shows up. She's, from my accounts with the person being, called on, said they were polite, but told her you can't do this. City ordinances don't allow it. And she reminded them that the city is accountable to the state and federal government, and the state says that the parks must be allowed for this kind of free speech, especially political speech.
Right.
Because even our Supreme Court has ruled the most protected form of free speech is political speech.
Right.
Redress of grievance, which
Absolutely.
this is.
Right.
Okay, so she ain't budging. Grandma knows her stuff.
Nice.
And she's put up with a lot. She's been there since the 60s, and she ain't going to take this anymore.
Good.
And so she goes back to her stuff and being nice to everybody. She turns on social media, don't you know? Grandmas with social media can be powerful things. And I don't think the firefighter was quite aware of this.
That's what you call
Because
AI.
she's doing narration to us of what's going on. She's showing her 2 little signs, and she's got a couple of chairs by her car, and she's, sitting there. And no bullhorns, no Antifa flags or,
No blocking people.
Yeah, no clubs,
Trying to get in.
spears, no mace, and, cement milkshakes or anything like that. And, then the 2 police officers are talking to the dog catcher and fire department personnel.
Right.
And then the 2 police officers leave, and she's heard on saying, bless you, love you,
So a great interaction with the police officers.
Oh, yeah, fantastic. And the last one to leave is this guy from the fire department, and I guess he was driving his own vehicle.
That's allowed?
Fact is, he was wearing a shirt that was issued just to the fire department. It was for the MDA telephone fill the boot thing. And he, and she's mentioning that this guy cussed out that little girl when the little girl said, you want to sign our petition?
Oh, Grandma witnessed the fireman cursing out a little girl.
Cussing out a little girl.
Well, it was them because they handed him the.
Oh, cussing out them in front of the little girl.
Cussing out?
No, the little girl.
The little girl says to the fireman, do you want to sign our petition? And he cussed her out. Okay? Yeah,
Was she on fire?
And so, she's mentioning, and she turns the camera and says, that's the fellow that cussed out this little girl.
Oh.
Well, he's, by his truck across the parking lot. Oh, that got him. The camera's on him, and he ain't going to put up with that. And he starts yelling at him, telling him, you can't take video footage of me, know?
Now probably he's not usually mean to little girls, and I'm being absolutely serious. This is what happens. He's probably not usually mean to little girls.
I don't hope so, being a firefighter.
And he lost his temper. Everybody can lose their temper. I lost my temper. And then he realized the one time I was yelling at a little girl, they caught me doing it.
No, actually, the film wasn't going when he was.
No, I'm just saying. Somebody saw him being mean to a little girl.
He cussed her out in front of the 2 police officers.
I could be wrong.
Okay.
You know, in Fahrenheit 451, they were the bad guys too.
So anyway, he's coming over and demanding you can't film me in that, and he comes right up to her and starts grabbing her smartphone. Grandma, and hits her hand, and she's not giving this up, and she's not cussing at him. Because this is live on Facebook now. He doesn't realize it. The old days when you wore the badge, nobody questioned you. Those days are gone, folks, because we got social media and grandmas who aren't afraid and learn how to use them. So he finally gives up and walks away. But I got a screenshot of it because this lady sent me the video. Said, Dave, this is what's going on up here in Pawhuska.
So on SoonerPolitics.org, you can find this story about the Pawhuska firemen and see
with
the picture.
links, right?
Yeah, front page. Yeah, so the video's on there. In fact, I shared it on the 3D Politics Facebook page.
It's a video you want to watch.
Yes, it is. It's 6 minutes, but it catches this thing as it's happening. And so anyway, I checked with her. I confirmed all the story and that, and I said, okay, can I run with it? She said, yeah, please do. People need to know what's going on here in Pawhuska. So I ran the story, and I'm Facebook friends with the police chief because I tried to interact with him over this firing and rehiring stuff, but I've never met Nick.
No, but you have you have a nautical meeting.
Yeah, it was good. And so I sent him the link when I published it yesterday, early evening, and he texted me back. He says, thanks, I've heard about this, but I haven't seen the video. Looks like I've got a busy day tomorrow already.
Right, so he's looking at
it. And he didn't know how busy, because here's what happened afterwards.
If we would right now have a sponsor right now, Dave, I'd be cutting you so hard to a commercial.
Oh, you would have such good listenership because they would be bated breath.
Now
what
we're
happened
back
today?
from that exciting break, and tell us the rest of the story.
Well, Grandma, she just doesn't really want to have to get all this, in their face about it. And she's like, do I really file felony assault charges and
Well, that wouldn't be felony assault. That would be.
Well, she's picking up.
He hit her.
Well,
he's picking up fight or defending herself in a small town.
Theft of a smartphone.
She's defending herself against the authority in a small town.
But anyway,
okay.
Unless all assault is
that's true.
If you hit them, it turns to battery.
When it goes to eventually it can
then. She gets cussed out by enough people today, because again, everybody knows everybody in Pawhuska. Yeah.
Okay, let me key up here, because I got all excited about the commercial break. The grandma is trying to defend herself in a small town against the small town authority, which would include the fire department. Is that
correct?
Okay.
The city. A member of the city government.
Okay. So it takes a lot of gumption, for lack of a delicious word, to decide you're going to go ahead and say, I'm not going to roll over to the city authority.
Well, the other thing is, remember, small towns, and especially in a place like Pawhuska, people are related to one another, and so it's very tight.
Right.
Yeah.
Pawhuska's a small town.
So she had to make a big decision. She decides to go through with the pressing of the charge.
Right. So here's what happened. And I called her. Wasn't even 2 hours ago. We talked. I said, "What happened today?" And she says, "Oh boy, get ready for this," because she said this firefighter is related to half the town, by her estimation, and she got insults from all kinds of people because. He's
a strong, powerful guy.
And it was just this little Sooner Politics blogs, citizen journalism here. But it got bigger than that because she finally had enough today She says, okay, I'm going down there. Now, mind you, and I told her last night, I said, the chief is expecting you tomorrow. He replied back to my text.
Right.
So she goes in his office and she said he had the strangest look on his face. And she proceeded to tell me why, when she sat down, he said, I just got a call from the feds saying, what the heck is going on? Do we need to do an investigation?
Wow.
Now, I don't want to say what federal agency because I'm getting this second.
We don't know yet, right?
Yeah, he explained the chief knew exactly who he's talking to, but she just couldn't remember what federal agency it was.
It's unclear.
But he took her crime report, and he said, no, I'm going to have to turn this over to the sheriff's department because it's an investigation of somebody in our city government,
right.
A firefighter.
Right. So
which I expect, and I kind of told her, I said, don't expect the chief himself to actually be the one doing this investigation.
Right.
And so that's prudence on their part. But the fact that the federal government, after this little blog post, finds out about it, and they step in, it tells you what, social media, citizen journalism has some effect.
Well,
right?
And Pawhuska's been some moving and some shaking for a little
yeah.
while and some stuff.
So remember, I used to think Pawhuska was smarter than the feds because Pawhuska knew where the feds were. But he now knows where Pawhuska is. And if it wasn't just for that story, the next story will even rub it in more why Pawhuska's in the national news.